Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Spoiler Force Podcast. You can find all episodes on any podcasting platform like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and watch episodes on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and make sure to follow Spoiler Force on all social media platforms at Spoiler Force Podcast.
This is Mark Whitten, and you're listening to Spoiler Force Podcast. Set your heart ablaze.
All right, so this is episode 116 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky, and thank you for tuning in. This week's guest is someone I have been waiting to get on this podcast. He's been following the content since the beginning. You may have seen him around. He's been on DC Reacts videos as well. And actually, he's actually related to DC Reacts. We're going to actually talk about that too. So let me bring on Orion Vang. Thank you so much for doing this, bro.
Hey, thank you very much for bringing me on.
Yeah, man. I remember when I first just like met you online. That's when like I just had DC on the podcast for the first time, and DC was like, "Yeah, man, that's my nephew, dude. Like he does like all the graphic designs and all that stuff." So I was looking into your work, man. Like, holy shit, your stuff's pretty good. I don't. Can you kind of like explain exactly what you do? Because I don't want to like butcher your job.
It's all good, man. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, basically what I do is concept art, environment concept art specifically. It's basically either for video games, animation, or films. I get brought onto projects to kind of design the world, the architecture, the environments, and all that stuff.
That is cool. So you do like a lot of, is it more like gaming design, or is it you just do like create worlds for, I guess like for mapping out details or something like that?
It's more creative than logistical. So it's like, imagine architecture, right? Like you have to do building plans, all that stuff. We still kind of have to do the same thing as far as like communicating visually goes. Because what we do is we either draw things out or we paint things out, and then we send it off to the 3D modelers to build it all in 3D. But essentially, it's more creative. There's no like mathematics or anything like that. But it's all about just getting like the coolest idea across.
So when you mentioned that you send it out to the 3D builders, so you do like the 2D format, pretty much like the background sketch of it.
Yeah, because pretty much,
Okay.
because it takes a while to kind of build new ideas in 3D just from scratch. So then that's where people like me come in. We kind of essentially our job, the core of our job is just to save the production money down the line. So basically, because it's a lot quicker to knock ideas out in like 2D sketches or paintings. So then we just iterate a ton with images and illustrations, and then whenever the director gives it a go, then we send it off to the 3D modelers to just build it all in CG.
See, now that you explain it like that, though, like I'm thinking about like I used to get those Final Fantasy books, the art books.
Yeah, just like that, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that.
So that's what I'm thinking about. So no, man, that is awesome. No, I really applaud you for that, man, because like it's really cool to see like a Hmong brother do this stuff too. It's always it's always like the Koreans or the Japanese folks or like the Chinese folks that do this stuff. No, I like what you're doing, man. I really respect that, and I like seeing you like supporting other artists too that do this stuff, like that's in your field. But when you were starting this though, man, like were you just freelancing it, or were you actually like working for, I guess, like these other companies that do these creative world building?
Yeah, so I started off my career freelancing because I think honestly, if you're not like graduating from like a school system or you're not really connected with someone who's in the industry, the easiest way to get your foot in the field is through freelancing. So basically, that's how I started out. I just had some friends I like had a study group with for a whole year, and then by the time we were, or like after a year of doing that, let's say, then we had a portfolio, and then we just started sending like portfolios out to companies. And they'll say, "Hey, yeah, we got some extra work that we need done." So then that's how they bring you on, and then it's kind of like climbing up the ladder too, where you take on all the grunt work at first, and then eventually you start doing all the cool stuff, and then eventually they kind of huddle you into the core team.
So when you're doing this stuff though, man, like when you're freelancing, it'll only be like a certain amount of time, right, for that project, and then is it just like, oh yeah, we're done with this, so we don't really need you anymore, or do they still keep you around? How does that work out?
Yeah, it depends on some companies who do that. So other times they might be like, or like PlayStation, for example, they might say, uh, oh, we have 3 months left to release Ratchet and Clank, but we still have all this like prop work that we need to finish up. Let's get someone like Orion on just to knock it out in 3 months. And then after that project's done, right? There's no more Ratchet and Clank for maybe another couple of years. And then in a case like that, usually if they love your work, they'll refer you to another company who needs some help. But in some cases, fortunately for me, in my case, I've worked with companies where they're like, oh, okay, the show's done, but we have something else ready to go if you want to hop on.
So are you permanently hired into a company now, or are you still freelancing now?
Yeah, it's an odd situation because technically I'm a freelancer, but I'm on their payroll. So yeah, so it's weird. So
You're gonna get
basically,
checked from them, but then you can still work for other people, pretty
yeah,
much.
pretty much. So then right now I have 2 people I work with. There's the Christian Broadcasting Network. They're basically an animation studio or indie animation studio, and then I have Sony PlayStation that I also work with too.
Dude, that is fucking awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate, man, because a lot of times people, like what I was saying, like they get let go as soon as a project's done. But for me, they're like, hey, man, like, can we just keep you in the system? And then whenever we need help, we can just call you in. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do that.
So do they just like keep your art portfolio or like your resume intact then, just to have you around? Like, oh yeah, like we can recommend Orion because look at his work here, and
Yeah.
okay. No, that is awesome, man. I didn't know that you were working for PlayStation. I think I saw some of your stuff on Facebook. Like I know you have like NDAs and stuff like that, so I don't really want to touch
Yeah.
up on that too. But man, that is cool. Like it's just we don't get to see a lot of, again, like we don't get to see a lot of Hmong folks that are doing stuff like this. So when it's really cool to see like people doing this kind of stuff for their field, whether it's like through art or like digital art. But when you were starting this, man, were you doing digital art from the get-go, or were you always drawing like freehand too?
Yeah. So I actually started out doing everything traditionally, right? So for me, like I grew up with my grandma and them, so I just spent a lot of my time just drawing my own characters and all that stuff. And then when middle school came, I had a lot of friends who introduced me to digital art. And then by the time I got to high school, I'm like, this is for sure what I really wanted to do. So that's how I got into it.
So were you working with like all the Adobe programs too, like Photoshop or like
Yeah.
Illustrator?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried doing that, man. When I was in high school, I had like this class called visual imaging, and I think the only thing I was good at was just tracing. And so I was like, I can't do this freehand. I am terrible at this. Yeah, so like when you're working on these projects, man, like how is there like some sort of creative process you have, or do you kind of like take time to study what you're about to do first?
Yeah, man, I wish it was formulaic, but that's not always the case. It's always subjective, right? So then the best course of action is just to have as many skill sets or proficiency in softwares as you can. And then based on the assignment that they want to give you, you're like, okay, I want to grab this, bam, bam, bam. And then you try to like make it formulaic. And then, but sometimes it's like, okay, I'm halfway through, but ideas have changed. Maybe the director might have a new inspiration. So then they're like, okay, let's start back from scratch and kind of do it again.
Oh man.
So, yeah, but I mean, you still get paid well to do it, and you still get paid for your time too. But a lot of the times, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's not formulaic. You can't really manufacture it as much, so it's all about making sure you're ready. You have all the assets ready for you to go, and then you just pick and choose.
Is it pretty repetitive though? Like when you're doing all these background sketches, like do you know what you're about to do, or do they ask you like, oh, we're doing this, like we're doing like a D&D type of setting, or we're doing like a like a Farmville type setting? How does that work out?
Yeah, so in some cases it can be pretty repetitive too, where because there's 3 phases of production in any creative project, right? Film, books, movies, or games, all that stuff. So basically, the most repetitive part is where it gets to production, which is pretty much in the middle of it. And basically, what they do is they say, hey, we need maybe for Death Stranding, we need like 200 cars that's rusted up, right? So then at that point, it's like, okay, like I have one like a rush texture brush or maybe like a photograph we can use, and then they'll send us 3D models, and then we just paint on top of it, and then we just send it off. It gets approved, and
Wait, so
then
you're drawing 200 separate cars?
yeah.
Oh my god! Holy
So that's
shit!
so that's the point where it gets pretty crazy. But the funnest part is where you're in the very beginning of the project in pre-production or development, where they're like, um, you have total creative freedom. We just want like maybe a fantasy landscape with aliens, and then just have fun with it. And then that's where we pump out like a bunch of images, and then it's our creative idea too. We're not locked down on like an art direction. So then that part happens to be the funnest, and that's where you can apply all sorts of techniques.
Have you I guess what are some challenges, man, like that you faced as doing like these kind of concept arts? Like I know you mentioned like people or directors like changing their minds on certain projects, but was there something that you did that was like, you really liked it and they're like, oh, scrap that?
Yeah, man, as far as challenges go, the obvious is like really hardcore designs, right? Like with Iron Man, I'd imagine I've never worked on Marvel stuff. I wish I would, but just based on like colleagues that I know who've worked on it, they're like, yeah, man, we have to like give it like our 200% with every single design for an Iron Man suit, and it all gets scrapped until we get to the right look of it.
So they have to do it. Y'all have to do it like from scratch though, right? You guys just can't like fix up what you guys done and then like, or erase this and then fix it up. Here you go. Like
sometimes you can do that too. That's the beauty
Okay.
with digital art. But sometimes you do have to start from complete scratch depending on how you structure your workflow.
Oh, right, yeah, like all the layers you have on there.
Yeah, sometimes if you merge it all and then the director's
Right.
like, we want to go back to like your first iteration, you're like, damn, like, well, that's lost.
Now, are you pretty organized with that, man? Like, do you have like when you're happy with your layers, do you just merge it all, or do you kind of keep it all like separate just to make sure, like, in case you have to go back and make changes?
Yeah, it's back and forth sometimes. So I started off in animation, right? So then they kind of want to take your, let's say they want your image and they want to turn it into like an actual background for the film. You kind of have to like stay organized as separate, like your foreground elements to your background elements, all on separate layers and groups. And then sometimes if the files get too heavy, then you kind of merge what you can merge and then start a new file and then just kind of keep the structure the same way.
Were there any projects that you did like I guess that you didn't expect to do? I know you said something about Ratchet and Clank. Is that something you worked on?
Yeah, I worked on the tail end of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was unexpected too because I'm not too much of like a stylized type of artist, but it was a fun challenge because it's like make it cartoony but not too cartoony. So then it's like, okay, what does that mean? And you kind of have to like figure that out as you go.
So do you study like I guess the landscapes that they already have or like the world that the game is before you even start the project?
Yeah, pretty much. And that could be a part of the process too, because if it's like a very stylized game, they want you to understand the shape, the forms, and all that stuff too. Maybe even color palette and lighting before you start tackling like the heavy handed assignments.
I guess I can ask you this too then. Are there any projects that you want to work on? Like would you want to work on something like Final Fantasy related or something more like Elden Ring styled?
Yeah, man. At this point, I'm happy to take on anything because I'm pretty comfortable with where I'm at. And yeah, for sure, it's like, oh, if they make a Final Fantasy 16 ever, they're like, oh, maybe we need some environments for a DLC and stuff like that. Like, I'd be happy to take that on. But yeah, definitely childhood games like Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, hopefully Star Ocean if they ever do that again. But yeah, anything fantasy or sci-fi, like I'm all game for that.
Have you applied for like Square Enix or like any other of those like major companies that do I guess concept designs and like artwork for like all those games?
No, those guys those guys are considered like, what do they call it, like first tier studios or A-class studios. That's the part where it's hard to like apply for it and get a job. It's more of like you either got to know somebody or they really love your work and they kind of like grandfathered you into that circle.
Oh, okay. Damn. So so you really got to build up your portfolio for that then. I mean, that is. I mean, I do understand it too. Like everyone's, every artist would love to have like a job at like Square Enix or like Microsoft to do game building and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. And you might even like meet some people who is perfect for Square Enix, but they don't know anybody. It's kind of hard to get into.
Yeah, it's kind of like that for a lot of artists that I see, dude. Like there's so many like Comic-Con artists that I've met that do like a lot of just digital art, and sometimes you wonder like why don't you ever try to like make covers for DC or for Marvel, and they just don't. And that's something I want to ask you though, man. Like I know you do concept art, but do you do like other, I guess, other style artwork too? Like, have you been requested to do like character drawings or like even, I guess, like freelance work for just like requests? Like sometimes artists will get asked like, hey, can you draw me like this background or this, or like this cover for a certain book, or like like comic book type stuff.
Oh yeah. So for me, I've only had one type of job like that where it's like, hey, we'd love to have like an illustration for a book cover or like a fantasy story, but that was pretty much it. Like,
So oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, sorry. Yeah, I was just like comic book stuff. That's very a niche community too. So it's like, unless you got a background in doing comic book stuff, or if you got a portfolio that specifically tailors it towards it, then that's where you can start getting the gigs for it.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of doing character design?
Yeah, actually, I do as a hobby.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I know.
doing
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah. Because you mentioned drawing characters. I wanted to ask that because like I said, there's so many other artists out there that do like drawings of just certain characters, and then eventually some of them catch on. Like one of my favorites is Art Germ, and he has like a really good anime styled look to his comic book characters. And like there was one, I think, what, 2017 or 18, maybe a little bit later than that, he had like he did the covers for all the Supergirl stuff.
Yeah, like he's got like a Western influence, but still has that Asian kind of style to it.
Yeah.
That's what really made him unique too. And once I started seeing him doing the Supergirl stuff, I was like, damn, this guy's killing it. He's taking all the jobs, man.
Yeah. Dude, I bought all the covers that he had for that line. Yeah. And then like, it's really cool too to see like how these other like artists that pull each other. And I don't know if you know who Lee In Hyuk is. He's another
he does Marvel stuff, right?
Yeah, he did some DC stuff too. He did some Supergirl covers, and I think I bought one that was actually like a misprint, and I still have it.
Real?
Yeah, I have one at home in Michigan. I don't know what the price of it is now, but I think it was his cover that he did. It was like a B cover, and I bought one. Would that be something you'd be interested in? Like if DC or like Marvel just came up to you like, yo, we need you to do this, like some sort of design for us.
Man, honestly, at this point, I might dabble with one assignment and see how it goes. Because for me right now, like I've been trying to like do my own stuff at this point too. So right now, like I just stick to like Sony work or like work with my other client, and then obviously like as a hobby, like I love to like play around with comic style work or like cover art and all that stuff. But at some point, like I'd love to come out with my own comics or my own books, and then just be able to do my own art for this stuff.
Yeah, a lot of independent artists, I think that's kind of like the goal. You want to establish your own studio or like your own designs. That way, you're not like answering to I guess what you can say corporate and stuff like that.
Money people, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like that though? Like sometimes when you do work under like these major companies, like they kind of just control your artwork, sort of. Is that something that you feel like sometimes happens to you too?
Yeah, sometimes it can be that way. I've only had a shorthand experience with it, thankfully, but definitely when I see coworkers, when they design like characters for females, maybe like for a shooter game and all that stuff, they'll come up with like the baddest designs, and then they're like, show more cleavage or something like that. And she's like, oh man, all right, let's do it.
Shit, sex sells, man. Like, you ever seen those memes though? Like, like the girl with the armor, like with very revealing like armor, and then it's like plus 100, and then she's fully clothed is like +1. Like it's. I mean, it's what it is though, man. Like those companies know what sells when it comes to that kind of a market, though. I mean, it would.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it would suck though, like to have your art being controlled like that, or like being told to get redesigned because it's not what they want. When you're doing this stuff, man, like what inspired you to do this, man? Like why just, or like why pursue art?
Yeah, for sure, man. So growing up, I had a lot of uncles who played games like Call of Duty, all that stuff. So then I had one side of the family who was all about military shooters, so like zombies, World at War, Modern Warfare. And then I had the other side of the family who played a lot of like Star Ocean, Xenosaga, like Final Fantasy series, all that stuff. So then, and then we were all poor at the time too. So I'm like, man, like you can create all these characters and all that stuff, and like create all these really ambitious worlds and start new cultures and stuff. So then I was like, man, I got inspired to do that. So I just busted out binder papers, little, type 2, number 2 pencils, and then just try to create my own characters and stuff. And then I think one day, because like as a hobby, it's like you just do it mindlessly, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm having fun. But I think what really drove it home, or what really pushed me to like pursue it higher, was when I came across this guy on YouTube named Feng Zhu. I don't know if you heard of him, but
I
he's
don't
like
think so. I'll definitely have to check him out though.
okay, yeah, but he's a veteran in the entertainment industry. He's famous for like quitting Berkeley to pursue art, and then became one of the most prolific designers out there. And he's like one of the guys who worked on Star Wars and all this stuff, like all the OG shows.
Okay.
Yeah, but basically, I came across his videos, and I'm like, dang, he's taking it up to a whole new level with his art. And you're saying you can make a living out of this stuff too? I'm like, dude, I gotta pursue it.
Yeah, that's the thing about today's world now. Like everything being digital and like with social
Dude.
media, it makes it possible for a lot of artists to do these things. I mean, same thing with the whole podcasting world, man. Like it's so much easier. But what sucks, like this is what I this is my gripe with this stuff, right? It's so much easier, but then like the doors open to everyone, so everyone can do this thing. And now
100%.
there's even more people you got to compete with. But no, man, like what you're doing, dude, it's super cool, man. Like I said, I can't say it enough. I really respect the like what you do, and but you know, I wanted to bring this up, man. Like
Yeah,
DC's
sure, man.
DC's your uncle, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
He's my just to tell you like, or to tell everybody how close he is to me. He's literally my mom's younger brother.
oh shit!
Yeah.
So you guys are like really close then. Like it's like your blood
Yeah.
uncle, pretty much. Okay.
We grew up like little brother and big brother, pretty much.
Man, I've like just watching him grow his content, dude. Like I still remember. I was telling my roommate this. Like I remember, you know, following DC when he started his reaction channel, man. Like
Oh, for real.
under 100 subscribers, and then up to where he's at now. And I know he did an interview with you a while back. Y'all talked about like crypto and NFTs. I don't know about NFTs,
Right.
but cryptos and stocks and stuff. That's a world I don't know, so I'm not even gonna bother to ask you any of that stuff. So I know like that's what's hot right now. Everyone wants to like invest in like, you know, cryptocurrency, and I know DC has like his NFT podcast too that he's doing. So, but you know, man, like, have you ever thought about doing like your own channel, man? Like your own like Twitch channel or YouTube channel, like just putting your artwork out there?
Yeah, no, man, 100%. I'd love to do that at some point, because my idea too was that I kind of want to push out the product first, and then if people like it and stuff, then it's like, hey, bonus content, you can subscribe to my YouTube or hop on my Patreon. I'll do like private Discord live streams, or maybe even Twitch stream, and then just really engage with my audience, right? And at the moment, when I think about what I want to do for that type of content, I don't really know yet. But I think once I have my product in place and I get feedback from my community on like what would they love to do, then it's like I'm all for it, honestly.
I know TikTok has like that trend for artists, like where you see like them swipe the pad that they're working on, and then like you see like the finished product. I know that's a big trendy thing right now. I know I see a lot of people do that.
Yeah, content on TikTok for art has evolved a lot, because before it used to be just time lapse of tracing and stuff like that, and then boom, final art. But now they're getting more creative with it.
I'm surprised that you haven't done that yet. I know like with Twitch, dude, like that a lot of artists have taken Twitch to where like you don't even need to show your face. You just sit and draw, and like you just talk with your audience. Yeah. So like that's something I would really recommend that you do. I think that would be really cool just to see that, man. And you know, like I think we talked about this a little bit before too, like, you know, going to conventions and you know, have you considered that? I know you kind of mentioned like that's something you'd like to do, but have you like sold prints at all? Like made prints of your artwork and sold it? Have you done any of that?
No, I actually haven't done that at all, but I'd love to get to that point. Yeah, because like honestly, within sorry, my bad. Yeah, honestly, within this year to next year, especially with the pandemic kind of like dying down a bit and things opening up a little bit more, like I definitely want to like I'm from Sacramento, and one of our only big convention here is Sac Anime, and we actually get some legit people who come by. So I'm like, okay, maybe I should open up a booth and then just kind of like introduce myself and then just put my name out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like Hmong artists out there on Facebook and on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely like try to look out and collaborate. I had Victor Koo, Mighty Pegasus, on the podcast not too long ago, and
Oh, really?
we were talking about like just his stuff, how he got started. He was the guy that did the he won the Zack Snyder contest for Justice League, and
Oh,
so
for real?
yeah, so his artwork got to be on like the billboards and like all the advertisements and stuff like that.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
pretty
for a
legit.
manga
Like,
too?
yeah,
Wow.
that's the and like I said, they're like if you don't do like concept design, you should try doing that stuff. And I like what you do, man. I think you could probably pursue in something like with like have you ever thought about like doing movies and stuff like that too, like for like
Yeah.
designs for all that?
Yeah, 100%. Because like working for another movie or doing my own movie?
Both.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because yeah, like for the animation studio I work with, we've had some stuff before where they're like, hey, we need some cover art for a DVD that we're gonna give out to our our fans or subscribers. So like I've done that, and but as far as like games go, like marketing illustration, that's kind of like a whole new field for me too. So it's kind of like saying like graphic design, right? If you're someone who does logos and tattoos, it's way different from like building worlds from scratch.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's I mean, it's still art, but it's two different like jobs. I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, man, like when you're doing this stuff, man, like what comes to your mind, man? Like just seeing yourself come this far and being able to make money from just doing all your art.
Man, I'm super fortunate. It's weird because it's like I'm either really jaded because the industry is pretty tough too. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty tough. So sometimes you're like, man, I hate my job, but at the same time, it's like I get paid to draw for a living, man. Like I'm in a very fortunate situation. So it's like um because it's a job, right? And you sometimes you kind of have to like work really fast. Sometimes so the joy of doing the art kind of gets away from it, or it's easily fleeting. But once you like take a step back, breathe, and think back to like why you started this stuff, or think back to the games you used to play, like you draw that inspiration in again, you just jump right back in full force.
Yeah, I really like seeing like people's stories like that, like especially being Hmong, dude. Like
Yeah.
we would never expect to get paid to do like entertainment or to do art. And I mean, were your folks really supportive of your stuff too? Like just seeing you pursue this, or were they like, go get an actual job type of deal?
It was they were supportive, and then they were also kind of fearful at the same time too. So they're all like when I got my first job designing houses, they're like, oh, you're getting paid well, okay, that's good. Shoot, do you have any benefits on all that stuff? And then they're like, okay, if you don't have that stuff, then maybe you should try, I don't know, being an engineer or something like that. But after a while, like especially, it's really funny because um, at first, because before I even got with Sony, I had like maybe 2-3 years under my belt still, just freelancing around. But my family would never say like, oh, like Orion's an artist or he makes an art for a living. But ever since I got a job at Sony, they're like, he works at Sony, does all this stuff. And then even if I work for other companies or work on other projects, like if I take a break from Sony, they're all like, yeah, he still works for Sony.
Yeah, that's pretty typical for Asian families. Like they
Yeah.
they don't really acknowledge what you do until like something big happens. Like, yeah, he works for Sony now. Like
Right.
it's something to brag about.
Yeah, I think even with was it Timothy Delgado? He was like, dude, like I was killing it in the game for the first time, pioneering it on like social media for Asians, and then my parents never really talked about me until they saw me on Chinese newspaper or Thai newspaper or something. So it's funny how that happens.
Yeah. Oh man, like I really respect that you're able to do like work with Sony, man. Like
Appreciate it, man.
was there any like jobs at Sony that they made you do that? I guess I mean I don't want to say that you didn't like, but was it something that that you didn't think you would be doing though?
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, maybe I kind of shoot myself in the foot doing this, but if you look at my portfolio, it's a lot of illustrations, right? But
Mhm.
for me, I find myself to be more of a designer than an illustrator. So basically, like design costumes, design props, or like architecture. And then the illustration side is where you kind of promote it, make it look good, right? Sell the idea of it. So when I was at Sony, I was initially hired on to do like weapons and design, just design in general. And then they're all like, bam, we got a gigantic illustration job that we need you to do. And it's all like, oh man, like I don't really have the mind or like the mentality for that, but I guess I'll have to like get myself prepared and gear it up for that.
It's kind of like just doing like two different jobs at the same workplace, you know, like it's
Yeah.
oh, you know, like, oh, we need you to do this, but yeah, like because like my dad was in CNC for a very long time, and so
Oh,
like
okay.
he would do like the designs on the programs, and he'll make the program so the machine would cut it. But then there was one year where I worked with him, and they were like, hey, we need you to make these designs for the part, and my dad's just like, that's not my job, man. Like that's the designer's job. Why do I got to do this? But what's funny is he was designing better than the designers.
Right.
Yeah.
See, that's the crazy part too, because if you're good at your job, you kind of, especially like if you're comfortable, you don't want to try other things, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot because they're like, you can do it. Like, we'll pay you more. Try it out. And you're like, oh man. But I totally feel your dad.
Yeah. have you considered like when that stuff does happen, do you ever feel like you should just maybe I should just do something else then, like not outside of what you're doing now, but like change your going from like what you said to a designer to a illustrator?
I think it's more of like I kind of want to just do my own stuff full time, but then it's like, I still like working with companies too from time to time, especially if it's like a really cool project. But for me, it's like a process. It's like, oh, this project I'm going to be working on, I'm super excited. And then, oh man, they want me to do illustration. So I'm like, it kind of dies down. And then I kind of find reasons for me to be excited about it. I'm like, okay, I don't do characters professionally. So they want me to do characters. So like, all right, like I'll spend my time on the weekends studying characters, practicing characters just to make this job look good. And then, it's kind of weird because like you're a creative person too. So when you get in that creative state, you get lost, you're in the zone, you just have at it, right? So then once I kind of get through the hurdle of like my own self-doubts, I'm like, man, this is actually a lot of fun than I thought.
I didn't know I could do this,
Yeah,
that's how I am too, like with this whole podcasting. There are times like when I'm editing, I'm just like, I didn't know I could do that. Like, holy shit.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, dude, like that's what I hate too while like doing this podcast stuff is when I have to, like, I enjoyed this part of the podcast where I'm talking and I get to have a conversation, but then like when I do all the behind the scenes stuff where I'm like editing and fixing audio, man, I drag this. And that's what sucks, man. Like when you're doing like your own thing independently, you have to do everything. And so like I'm trying to learn like how to do I've been pretty fortunate to have like some friends who would be like, oh, you should fix your thumbnails or you should like change your titles and stuff like that. I mean, even DC helped me out with that too. DC like, DC was like, you should change your titles, man, because like it's kind of too descriptive. You keep it general type of thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to have some help with that, but then like when it comes to just like audio engineering or like video engineering, just man, I hate it. It's such a drag for me, but I still have to fucking do it. And I get where you're coming from, man. Like when you have to like overcome these hurdles of like, man, this is not what I do, but you still have to push and go through with it.
Oh yeah, the cool thing about what you do though is that there's scalability with it. So then, when your podcast pops off, you're like, oh, I can hire an editor to do this that I don't want to do, or and so, right?
Yeah, I that's what I hope to do, but in the long run too, like I do see that there is like I guess some sort of experience, right, where you can say like, oh yeah, I worked with audio before, or I've worked with like creating or like semi creating like certain designs, and it's like I'm pretty much putting my feet in the water of like all this other stuff that could potentially grow. But like I said, though, I am terrible with design. So like if you look at like my thumbnails for all these podcasts, it's so simple. It's very simple. It's just bam, like episode this, the words this, and it's just nothing too crazy. I have like this really creative imagination when it comes to like designs and stuff, but I can never put it on paper. I'll describe it to you though. Like I'm good at that. Like I will describe the whole world, the world I want to you. And then I just hope that the artist that I'm working with can draw it out.
Oh yeah, man. It's creativity is a muscle, right? So it translates through all types of mediums, and then whatever resonates with you the most, that's how you express it the best. And then when it comes to other stuff, you can hope that it's like, I'll have this guy handle it for me. And
have you ever considered doing like I guess like just graphic designing for like all these other Hmong artists out there that are like doing music or like doing independent businesses? Has anyone ever reached out to you for that?
No, because I think I'm mostly like trapped inside the games and film industry. So a lot of times, because my stuff isn't really graphic work too. So it's like, I mean, unless they want, like for example, I know Logic. He hires like straight up people from video games to like design and illustrate his albums. So then, unless there's somebody like that who wants to do creative stuff, then that's something I could do. What I do know too is that nowadays music videos, the budgets are getting huge now. So now they're making like full on CG world. Like I saw, there's a really famous like concept art studio within the industry, and they're like, "Oh, we just spent the last year doing a music video for Megan Thee Stallion and like all these like artists and stuff like that." And when you look at it, you're like, "Damn, these are like straight up movies." And so that stuff I can see being more realistic for me as far as, or instead of like doing like graphic covers for albums and stuff like that.
Yeah, that'll be really cool to see something like that. Yeah, but that is true though. Like the music genre and like pretty much the entertainment industry is pretty much kind of mixing with like a lot of animes being more mainstream now. Gaming is
Oh yeah,
more mainstream now. Like esports, like no one thought that esports would be a big
esports.
thing, and then that look how huge it is now. It's considered a sport. They are technically athletes now because they get paid for it. So
I know, dude.
it's insane.
All the things that our parents told us not to do, it's like moneymaker right now.
I know that I have like I get salty at times where like I tell my folks like you see if you just let me do that when I was younger I could have been this I throw it in their face just to poke fun at them, but no, it's true though, man. Like the things that like weren't so traditional are pretty much mainstream now, and
Oh yeah, man.
but like I've said though, like the world of that is just, it's mad competitive.
Yeah,
And
what's crazy too is that ever since COVID happened, right? I think COVID really accelerated the whole Web3 movement. And not to dive too much into it deeply too, but because of all like the metaverse stuff and crypto, people or analysts are saying that by 2035 or so, most jobs nowadays are going to be more creative work and digital work versus like manual labor jobs and all that stuff.
yeah, I knew that was gonna be the case too, which is weird, right? Because now
Yeah,
schools are like it. It's gonna be like when you go to school for graphic design or like just illustration or whatever, they're gonna start requiring like higher degrees to like pursue those jobs, which is pretty crazy when you think about it now. Because before you didn't really need much to pursue art at the time, or at least when I was going
yeah,
to school, you didn't need much to pursue art. All you needed was like, sometimes you might just need a certificate, or sometimes you just need to graduate from
yeah.
like a design school. But now it's like these universities are like pulling these programs in. I don't know which school it is, but there was a podcaster I had on quite I think a year or two ago. His name was William Moore. He's like a esports announcer, and he
Oh,
went
okay.
to school, and the school he was at, they had like programs for that where you can go
Yeah, that's
do
crazy.
like esports and stuff. I had no idea that was a thing. I was like, holy shit, like you can go to school just to play games now. And I know in Korea and Japan they have that,
They're
like
killing it, I bet, man.
yeah, it's insane to see like how, like you said, like how this digital world or even the metaverse, like it's growing so quickly. I heard I forgot which podcast I was listening to, but the whole metaverse thing, like
Uh-huh.
people are like buying art and like, or like digital art, and like they're creating their world in the metaverse, which I
Yeah.
think is insane. Because like there's actually I think it was a Joe Rogan episode. Him and Tim Dillon, they were talking about it, and like apparently there's because like NFTs have like value, right? Yeah, even though they're just digital art. And
Yeah.
so like apparently in the metaverse, it's kind of the same thing. You can buy things there, and there's value there. And I don't know, man. What's your thoughts on that though? I still can't really wrap my mind around that, like being in like a digital world and thinking like, oh man, this has value to it, but you can't physically touch it.
Yeah, it's weird because so for sure it's not like Ready Player One yet, right? But at this point, I think it's gonna start off as like trying to make jobs off a website, right? So for example, if like for sure, like a lot of So like for example, right now with Metaverse, there's a lot of utility with the artworks, right? So if you buy, let's say like a samurai artwork, if you hold on to that, you're going to get rewarded with a character with the same skin once the game comes out. So that's part of the value for it. Another part of the value too is like there's a lot of farming games right now. You could buy a freaking pickaxe NFT for $400, and the value behind it is that it can make you more money if you like use it to mine like gold or silver and stuff like that.
Oh, holy shit! So you're pretty
Yeah,
much buying. It's like DLCs for it. You're buying real
yeah.
DLCs for yourself, and holy shit!
Or
Holy shit!
the biggest hit right now is buying virtual land.
Yeah,
And
I
then
heard about that.
renting it
People are like,
out.
dude, I heard about that. People are like buying land. Like I think Snoop Dogg bought some land or something like that.
He bought a lot of land. And
Yeah.
what's crazy about that is that in the game that he bought the land on, all of a sudden all the little land around his became so much higher in value. So now everyone's buying that stuff out and they're flipping it like crazy. It's wild.
Dude, that is. Can you imagine that? Like, yeah, I'm neighbors with Snoop Dogg in the metaverse. You know,
Yeah,
like,
bro.
holy shit. Like I said, I still can't really wrap my mind around it. I guess until I do it myself, then maybe I'll understand this. But it's insane though, like to see kids growing up with this though. You know,
Yeah, especially with Roblox, right?
yeah.
Once Roblox kind of like jumps over from Web 2 to Web 3, that's where it's game changer, man. Like you're gonna have kids working from home making actual money now, which is insane.
If you want to start your own podcast like Spoiler Force, then sign up with Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout has helped hundreds of thousands of users like me to begin their podcasting journey. With easy-to-use tools, you can effectively get your podcast into different platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and more. You can view your stats, create audio clips, and even have your own podcasting website. Buzzsprout offers ideas, tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you improve your podcast. Follow the link below, and once you sign up, you'll get a $20 Amazon gift card. This will let Buzzsprout know that I sent you and will also support Spoiler Force Podcast. If you want a simpler way to record both video and audio for your podcast, then sign up with StreamYard. StreamYard is the perfect program to create podcasts, host live streams, and even do video calls. There are many tools that can help you create and design your own personal studio. You can screen share, read live comments, and stream to different destinations like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can also download your video and audio once you're done with your recording session. Follow the link below, and once you sign up with the basic or pro plan, you'll earn a $10 credit to use for StreamYard. Happy podcasting. I think, like, you know, those types of games, though, like, it does, in a weird way, it does help, like, these kids. Like, I remember when Minecraft came out, and, like, folks were shitting on the game. Like, dude, it's so ugly. It's, like, 8-bit sort of, 3D 8-bit, you know. But then kids were, like, learning how to craft because of Minecraft.
Yeah,
Like,
they're learning how to program, too.
Yeah. Exactly. They were building their own world and like doing all these things, and it was actually like helping these kids learn. And I was one of the few that like shit on the game too. I just thought it was ugly. I was like, what the hell is this, man? Like you're just punching trees all day and picking shit and collecting, but
yeah,
like in the broad picture though, man, like it there's a lot to learn from that.
Yeah, and people are making an actual living off of that too. Like there's a major studio called Blockworks where they're contracted by actual governments and big businesses to build Minecraft worlds or build servers and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey man, these guys are just like kids who grew up with the game and they became architects, and then they're like, screw this main job, I'm building Minecraft worlds for the federal government. It's like, that's crazy.
Oh man, is that something you like to do though? Like not just, I guess not building your own world, but since you're like you make these worlds yourself, like is that something like is that like something you'd like to do, like sell to, like if the world you make yourself like attracts whatever buyer, is that something that you want to push for?
Yeah, because so as far as like licensing my, like let's say if I made a fantasy world and I wanted to license it, probably not that, but what I would like to do is like right now, like I'm actually in the transition phase of trying to go back to writing books, because like that's what I've loved doing at first. So then for me, what I like to do is like I like to write and pump out a bunch of books, create like my own like kind of like MCU or like Star Wars universe and stuff like that. And then from there, just hire a bunch of, and then use the funds I get from those books, and then hire like an art team to build the actual worlds. And then from there, basically like project development, right? And then from there, if it attracts a lot of people, hopefully, like the goal is to have game companies say, hey, like we'd love to partner up with your studio, license your IP, and then build an actual game off of your stories. So as far as that goes, like I'd love to do that in in the long run. But as far as like hey, Minecraft, here's a fantasy world I've made, have at it. But
I mean, have you ever considered writing your own like comic book or manga?
yeah, no, I used to do a lot of that stuff as a kid. I actually have some sketchbooks still if I can find it. But I grew up with a lot of manga. Like I grew up loving Naruto a lot. The big three: One Piece, Bleach, Naruto. And then when Attack on Titan came out, like I feel like that was game changing in terms of storytelling. So then I was like, man, like I'm super inspired to like do my own thing. So then, but in the near future, I'd love to like do my own comic books too, or just have like a studio that like sells books and comic books, pretty much, kind of like how Star Wars is doing it.
Yeah, because I wanted to add on to that too. Like, if you do your own, like, I know webtoons are really big right now, like the Korean
Oh yeah.
webtoons. I know that. I don't know. Have you heard of the series Solo Leveling?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, because that's I haven't read it all. I think I don't know if they're done with it yet or not, but I bought like the first 2 volumes, and it started off as a webtoon, and then now they're like picking it up and it's becoming adapted into a series. So I was just thinking, like,
Oh, really?
how you were talking about like making your own. That's another idea that you can probably shoot for. Like making your own manga, and then like, with like digital webtoons or digital manga being hot too.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot to consume with that, and eventually, I know that again, like with anime being so big too, there's like a lot of these independent writers are like starting to get their stuff adapted, and like these companies are picking them up and just like, oh, we're going to give you like 1 season of this and do this, and then next thing you know, all their sales like explode. Like everyone wants more of their
Right.
work.
Yeah, that's true too. Because when you develop your own stuff like that, like comics and books, you have to think about the platform too, right? So webtoons is one of those platforms. If it's like the YouTube of comic books, then for sure, man, like I'd love to just throw my stuff at that. But I think that's how One Punch Man got
Yeah,
big, right?
yeah.
Dang.
Murata, I think I forgot his full name, but I think Murata is the guy that created One Punch Man. What's funny too about One Punch Man is like if you read the webtoon, it's the real artist. He doesn't do a good job at drawing until you read like the guy that he hired to do like the manga adaptation, and there's a
Oh, for
huge
real?
difference. Yeah, I mean it's sort of the same story. I read the manga up to a certain point. I know that they're getting close to like a big fight, or they're pretty much at a big part in the manga right now. But then like they changed it up a little bit compared to the webtoon. But I think the webtoon is just what's funny is like the webtoons you get the story, but then like just comparing artwork, it's very different. Like there in the
Wow.
anime, there are moments where like you see the original webtoon art, like the part where Saitama's like okay when Boros
Oh,
is like
he's like expressionless. He's like,
yeah, that's actually like
oh,
from the webtoon. Like that's the original look, like
that's hella tight.
that derpy look. So it's just funny when you go back and watch like or read the original art versus like the manga style interpretation to the anime. But yeah, dude, like One Punch Man is probably one of my favorites. But I mean, since we're on this topic of anime, man, like I know you
Yeah.
said you like Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, man. What other ones you watch?
So Attack on Titan for sure. Um, Honestly speaking, because I grew up with the big three, and they were running for a long time, right? So after I stopped watching those, I kind of fell out the wagon for a bit, and then Attack on Titan kind of picked up for me. And then my cousins, they love like K drama and stuff, so then they turned me to like slice of life anime, like Golden Hour. Was it Golden Hour or Golden Time?
I don't think I've heard that one.
Oh, okay, but
like I'm just starting to get into slice of life though. To be honest, like
it's pretty addicting, bro. I'm like,
yeah.
I can't get into this, and then you're like 20 episodes in, it's like, damn, bro, like, I'm really rooting for this fool.
Like, why aren't they in love yet? What the hell, dude?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Speaking of that, there's this series called My Dress Up Darling. I'm pretty sure you've seen me post about it, or you've probably seen it around. It's
I
pretty
think I
much
think so, yeah.
it's pretty much a slice of life, but the premise is like a girl who's trying to cosplay, and she meets a guy who can design the costumes. and
Oh,
so
that's
pretty much they
interesting.
just go from there. And for me, I love cosplaying, or I love like seeing cosplayers, and I love the world of cosplay, and then especially seeing that being turned into an anime, and you know, you get to see like all these little hints, or all these little like truths that they have. Like they'll talk about like, you know, designing the outfits, to talk about like the makeup designs that these artists have to go through. Excuse me. They also talk about like, you know, taking pictures and like using certain camera angles or certain lighting. It's really cool to see that. So like, you know, slice of life anime, man. People shit on it, but dude, there are some really good stories out there when
Oh
it comes
yeah.
to slice of life anime.
Yeah, no, it's true too because I haven't seen that one in particular, but I forgot what anime I watched, but there was one about a manga artist, and then he finally puts out a manga. It gets picked up, and he's like, "Okay, I gotta get a team," and it goes through like the actual nuances and realistic stuff that artists go through when they form a team, and it's like, dude, this is like legit. But I love that
I
they're taking that route too now.
Yeah, yeah, like they keep it more grounded with like these slice of life animes. Um, you, I mean, they're kind of doing that with shonen now too. I know that. Have you watched
Oh,
Jujutsu Kaisen at all?
no, that's the one that I've been told to get on.
Okay, you should watch that because the movie just dropped like a couple weeks ago. But yeah, that one, it's kind of doing that a little bit too. Like they'll talk about like real life stuff.
Oh,
There's
really?
like there's a part in the series where the main character has to train like how to control his power, and so he has to watch movies, and so like they actually put like a little snippet of like an anime interpretation of Lord of the Rings,
Oh,
and
that's
so like
crazy.
yeah, so like they'll talk about that, or like there's a scene where he's like in the quote unquote like tournament arc of this part of the show, and the guy that he's fighting is like, you know, what kind of girl are you interested in? And the main character is like, you know, I like tall girls with the big ass, like Jennifer Lawrence. You know, so like they'll
Oh,
throw in
for
like
real?
real, yeah, they
Dang.
throw in like real life things into this anime. So I thought that was really cool. And you know, like you said, it's really nice to see that when you watch anime nowadays, like they're throwing real life elements in there.
Yeah, no, I agree too. It's like with the MCU, they're like Spider-Man talks about was it aliens or Star Wars and stuff like that. And I'm like, like it makes it really relate to the characters a lot.
I know you missed out on the Spider-Man No Way Home
Yeah.
episode. I know you wanted to be
I
on
messed
that one.
up with
I
that.
was looking forward to having you on that one too. But yeah, I mean, since I have you on now, like, what was your thoughts on it, man? Like, as an artist too, like when you see like this world building like that in being like in movies and stuff, like, do you pay attention to that stuff too?
Yeah, 100%, man. I'll tell you what, dude. Once you start working in films, you kind of ruin yourself for movies because you care about more of the world building and stuff more than the actual story itself. So you kind of have to draw yourself back. But overall, though, man, I just like everybody else, I love Spider-Man, and uh, I think with the new Spider-Man movies that's been coming out, like I love it so much because they really intertwine the world building, the characters, and the plot really well all together. Right? They don't just have like a character and then the plot, and then say, "Oh, Spider-Man can shoot magic," but it's like, "Oh, Spider-Man can actually use like his powers to like solve problems for the story." So then seeing him evolve or seeing the story evolve with these new movies has been really interesting. Like how, like with the recent movie No Way Home, what I really love about it is that all these villains they got killed by Spider-Man, and they're like, we're gonna kill Spider-Man if we want to get back to our reality. And spoiler too, like as like like what the podcast says, but basically what I really love about it is that how can Spider-Man solve the issue of fixing the timeline and sending these guys back in time without killing them, right? And then I love the fact that they made him stay true to his character to the very end of the story, even though you thought that like, oh, he's gonna, he's gonna mess up Green Goblin.
I was hoping that they let Toby and Willem Dafoe go at it. I know there's like a deleted
Right.
scene of them fighting, but
Oh, there
I
was.
wanted. That's what I heard. I think it might be in the actual like Blu-ray or like the digital. I know the digital. You can buy it digitally now, so I don't know if you can get all the behind the scenes stuff. But I think there
Oh,
was a supposedly fight scene between Defoe and Toby Maguire, but I kind of wish they did that just for the fan service.
right.
Um, but dude, like I think for No Way Home, man, like when I still look back and think about this movie, like my favorite part was just Andrew Garfield, seeing him come back and like
Right.
just redeem himself. It's like,
Yeah.
yo, man, dude, and that's the thing too, right? Because like there's we talked about this on the Spider-Man episode too, like just our thoughts on the whole Sonyverse of like, you know, with Venom,
Oh, okay.
Morbius, and like all these villains. What we're thinking, or at least what with me and the other guests that I had on, like what we thought was like, you know, maybe they're in Andrew Garfield's universe, since, you know, technically he was the Spider-Man for Sony at the time.
Right.
And so maybe like eventually, instead of them fighting Tom Holland, they fight Andrew Garfield. But then now with Morbius, have you seen the news about Morbius lately? I don't want to say
About the
anything.
movies or something, or
Yeah, because like the director, or I don't know if it's the director, but apparently someone with the Morbius movie set like pretty much answered people on Twitter and was like, "Oh
oh
yeah,"
god.
and they explained the post credit scene, and like now it's kind of like confirmed that the villains can jump from the Sonyverse to the MCU.
Oh man, that's kind of see. So I get dang man, because it's cool. It sucks because it's like it could be spoiler, but then it's also the multiverse too, so you never know what happens, right? So dang, yeah. Because so I saw the post credit scene for Venom too. I really thought they were gonna have him in No Way Home, but I guess they didn't. But I think with that scene where they had the little symbiote crawling around, I feel
Yeah.
like I might be far fetched, but I feel like Sony might be trying to go for that the whole like symbiote war where they had Null
Yeah.
come by and all that stuff. But I feel like it's also like too like far ahead into the future for that kind of stuff.
I mean, I like that what they did. I like that they did that, but I still wish that like they gave Tom Hardy a fight scene or something, like, or at least he come
Right,
in mid fight and then like, you know, just throw everyone like, holy shit, Venom's in this movie. You know, like you get to see him,
right.
or like because everyone saw him teleport to the MCU, and so a lot of fans were like thinking maybe we'd see him come cross paths of Spider-Man, but none of that happened. Which
I
was
guess it's
yeah,
like what you're saying, right? I guess they're just trying to say, oh, the MCU can now go into the Sonyverse too.
yeah. But I mean, like, you know, you worked with Sony, but like, were you able to see like any of the Spider-Man projects at all?
It's mostly just the games.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the movies is different just because it's like films like that, they're all union films, so you have to be a part of the union to really even touch the project. But for us, it's mostly just the games.
I mean, I got some friends who were like really into the was it the Miles Morales one? I think
Oh
is
yeah,
that the latest one?
yeah, the
I
one
mean,
that came
like,
out.
yeah, have you ever like reached out to see if you could try to get on those projects too?
Yeah, I actually touched on it too when I first got into Sony
Oh,
because I had
from Miles Morales?
actually not Miles Morales, the new one that's coming out.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Wait, are you able? I don't know. Before you
well,
continue, are you able to even talk about it though?
I
Because
can't
like
talk
I
too
don't
much
want
about it, just as much as the trailer. That's it,
to. Okay,
or the
okay,
teaser they showed.
okay. We'll
But
just keep it at that because I don't want you to
yeah,
get in trouble. And like, oh man, Orion talked about, you know, the project NDA, cut him off. Like I don't, no, I don't want that.
I
So
think Insomniac, which is the studio who develops the Spider-Man IP, I think they already kind of shot themselves in the foot doing that already. So I think
oh
I'm kind
okay.
of safe. But yeah, essentially, my buddy Dave Wilkins. I don't know if you know him. He's a comic artist too. But he's the one that brought me into Sony, and he's like, "Yo, we got Spider-Man. We need to work on this stuff together." And I'm like, "All right." So then I jumped on it for a bit, and then yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can say.
I mean, when you see your like when you see your work in like the final product, then how does that make you feel?
Dude, it's the most rewarding thing ever. Because like I said, man, when you're in the process, sometimes it's very up and down. It's like a roller coaster. But then once you see the final product, you're like, it was worth it. This is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, that's kind of like similar to like seeing the voice actors that I talk to, like talk about like when they see themselves on the TV show or like on this movie, even the movie screen. Sometimes like, you know, I had Michael Yershak. He's the voice for Obito and Toby from Naruto for the English dub.
Oh, yeah! Congratulations to you.
Yeah, he was telling me like he would tell his kids friends like, you know, that's me, you know, like I'm Obito, you know, like, so I mean I can see how that is like for you too. I mean, when you see that stuff, it's like, you know, I did that, you know, I was on that project. There's like some sort of pride. There's a pride in your work when you see the final product like that.
Oh yeah, it's different too. And like what you were saying earlier too, like part of the reason of experiencing that is also why I want to extend out more and go to conventions because I feel like, man, if you have that interpersonal experience or that connection with your fans or the audience, I bet it's even more rewarding than just seeing your work move around on screen.
Yeah, dude, I really encourage you to hit up that convention scene, man. Like whether it's comic cons or anime conventions, definitely do it. I know that California, there's a huge circuit there. I mean, same here. I'm currently in Texas now, so like even in Texas, we're like me and my cousin, we're hitting up like these smaller conventions. I mean, I've been applying for like press passes recently too. So I mean, I keep my fingers crossed. I hope I get like a response soon. But yeah, man, like at this point, like, it doesn't even matter whether you go to a big convention or a small convention. You're just getting yourself out there, and that's what really matters the most.
Oh yeah, and like first and foremost, too, congratulations on your press pass too.
Thank you, man, dude. Like I was like not expecting that though, because I've been like rejected a lot to these like even conventions back when I was living in Michigan, like that they would be like, oh, you don't have the following that we're looking for, or like you don't have like you're not reaching like certain numbers, and so like that gets discouraging, man. Like when you see that shit and they kind of just flat out tell you like, oh, we don't want you because you don't have a following. But then like recently with the 1 day event I went to, man, like they were straight up just like, yeah, we'll have you on. Like,
that's what's up.
We've accepted your application, and just yeah. So I thought that was really cool. But like I said, man, just like hit up these small circuits, man. Like just hit up the small conventions. I know sometimes like they have little conventions even at the airport or like hotels. Dude, just hit up those spots, man. Like you're more likely to create a better fan base meeting those people there than going to like a huge convention where where you're competing against like legit artists already.
Right. Like you have like avatar artists taking up all the fans, and you're just
exactly. They can put you next to like, I mean, it'd be cool to be next to like a lot of these mainstream artists or like more well-known artists, but at the same time, like imagine just being sitting next to like, we'll just throw his name out there. Like imagine if you had a booth next to Art Germ,
right.
like those fans who are coming, they'll be going to Art Germ's booth.
Right.
And maybe some of them will come across yours, but like at this, like no knock on him, but like it's just when you go to these big conventions, like you're whether you're subconsciously competing with these people because you want your artwork out there too.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Especially like if you're spending like a lot of money on this stuff, which I'm sure these guys are doing too. Like you want to break even or make your money back, right?
Yeah.
Conventions are interesting because I remember my first time going to Sac Anime. I don't know if you know who Yume is. She's like a famous Chinese artist.
Yes, I follow her on Instagram.
Okay, yeah. So she came by for that year, and it was funny because she had her booth set up next to a person who was printing out other artists' work and selling it. So
oh shit!
He was selling her work right across from her booth, but she was really chill about it. So I'm like, man, that's pretty cool.
Well, at least you don't got to worry about that. I mean, you create everything from scratch, and that's kind of like the thing too, right? With a lot of artists these days. I'm not saying that what they're doing is wrong, but there's like a very fine line with that when you're either redoing someone else's work or like you said, someone with a booth reselling other people's work. Like,
oh yeah,
there's like there's a huge there's a fine line with that. Like can you because like I've even seen some booths where like you clearly tell like they printed out other people's work and like just threw it on like skateboards or like pillowcases and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So it really just depends. But for you, I know you ain't got to worry about that. You create your stuff from scratch. So
not yet, man.
Yeah, but I mean, does that make you nervous though? Like, do you ever think like, man, when people see your stuff, like they'll try to like steal it or copy it?
Man, I feel like I kind of go against the grain, or at least my opinions are different. Because for me, it's more like if people steal my stuff, I'm like, damn, I made it. But unless they're making billions of dollars and I get no share of that, then it's like, okay, yeah, like let's kind of dial it back a bit. But if it's just small boosts, like just trying to like use my work, and who knows, they might be a fan of your stuff too. But it's like usually stuff like that, I'm like, man, like I find it more like I find it more like oh, that's pretty cool. Then like, damn, you need to stop selling my work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nowadays some artists too, like they'll try to like get their prints, like they'll do drawings of a character like maybe like some voice actors would do, right? Like so the voice actors will sell these artists as prints as part of their
Oh,
way to make money at like conventions too. I don't know how that deal works out. Maybe they do like a shared profit or like some sort of deal where they, like 60-40 type shit. But I know a lot of artists have been doing that too. Like they'll reach out to like voice actors or like these other people that go to conventions. Hey, like I made this character design of you or your character, sell this and you'll make money. That I don't know. I don't know the business end of that. I just see it. But yeah, man, it is. That's the thing about like digital art that like I even again kind of going back to these NFT stuff. Like that's the kind of thing like where I'm iffy about because you can pretty much just screenshot something or copy and paste it and
yeah, pretty much. I'll say that too. Like with NFTs, when the art scene popped up for it, even as an artist, I did not understand it at all because it's like, you can copy it as a JPEG, all that stuff too, right? But once they started adding utility to it, like maybe with games or Metaverse platforms, then it's like, oh, it doesn't matter if people like screenshot it or stuff like that. As long as you have the contract that it's yours, then you're still going to reap the rewards that you get from these
right.
platforms
Yeah,
that come
yeah.
up.
There's like a code now, right? Like a verification code or something like that that you have
Yeah,
that specifically you have since you bought it.
yeah, it's your stuff.
Yeah,
But if it's like straight up art, it's like, dude, anyone can steal it and sell it. So
yeah,
it's like I never understood it that much. But I think the art stuff is just like a precursor to all this like new crazy stuff that's coming out.
yeah. Like you said, like you brought up earlier, man. I still can't wrap my mind around like the whole like utility part of like, man, I bought like like you said, I bought this pickaxe and I can use it in the metaverse. Like holy shit, dude! Like that still kind of blows me away. Like I
Yeah,
like that is just crazy. That I
it is.
can't.
It's what really blew my mind too. And it like obviously it has its cons, right? Like this whole like environment impact and stuff. But they're working really fast to fix that stuff. But what really sold the idea to me was I don't know if you heard, but one of the biggest metaverse games out there was like Axie Infinity, where
Never heard of
basically
it.
okay, so basically you buy these axolotl cartoons and they're NFTs, so they're like assets that you own, and then they have a game that you can play with. It's like Pokemon, and then but the money you earn from battles is actual cryptocurrency, which you can convert to real money.
Holy
And
shit!
yeah, and the craziest part about this is that you don't have to like play the game to earn. You can actually rent out, or you can loan out your axolotls or your monsters to people who are willing to play the game for you. And then you can cut like a 60-40 deal with them too. And then it becomes like a whole job process or a business where you're interviewing like people from like third world or developing countries, and then you're actually giving them a job. So then when actually Affinity popped up, everyone in the Philippines, India, they all had jobs, man, and it was the craziest thing ever. And
Holy
I'm like,
shit! It's like
yeah,
metaverse Pokemon battles. You can make real money from just doing battles and shit.
yeah, and they're making actual living too. So I'm like, dang, dude, like that's gonna be the whole world someday.
That is just like I said, man. I that is too crazy for me. It's already hard enough
Crazy,
trying to
man.
live in the real world and then having to do that, man. That's like,
I
woo,
know, like it's
that's a
sad
lot.
when I can't afford a $500,000 home in real life, and then now I can't even afford real or like digital land in the virtual world. It's like,
Right?
man, can't
Like
win.
it's crazy out there. But dude, Orion, man, I want to say thank you for your time, man. I'd love to have you back on a another episode in the future, man. I feel like we could talk a lot more about
hundred
all
percent.
this other stuff, man. But like I've said, dude, I really appreciate your work and what you've been doing. I really hope that I wish nothing but the best of you for you, man. Like I really hope to see your artwork like inspire like more Hmong artists too, man. Like that's something that I feel like we really need to see. That again, not knocking off like not knocking on like these other Hmong artists too, but like it's really cool to see that you're working for something like a company like Sony and doing your own projects and stuff like that and actually making a living off of it. So that's really cool.
Hey man, I really appreciate it a lot, and thank you for having me on. Like what you're saying too, just to make it quick, but like you and David, like I support so much with your podcast is because it's like you guys are paving the way for the Hmong folks, and then especially because you guys are going in different lanes too. But overall, like I appreciate what you're doing, not only by bringing me onto your platform, but also exposing everyone to each other. So thank you, and it's a privilege to be on here.
Yeah, no problem, man. But before we wrap things up, man, if folks want to follow you, how can they follow you, man?
Oh yeah, man. Dang, shoot. Twitter.
You don't got to give out your personal information, but like if you have
Yeah,
like
no,
an
it's
Instagram
good.
or something.
Yeah, no, because I have a public Facebook too. People can like just reach out to me. I have a Sony logo on my profile picture. And then I have Twitter too, and then I think that's just about it, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have those links in the description. So wait, so before I do that, so the Facebook profile that you have now, the one I reached out to you, is that the one that you use?
Yeah, that's a public one.
Okay.
For like
so,
art and all that stuff. So
okay. All right. I'll have that link in the show notes and description. But yeah, man, this is episode 116. You guys, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode with Orion. Again, make sure you guys support Orion and then check out his artwork. Like, share, and subscribe to Spoiler Force. Make sure you guys follow Orion on social media. If you guys ever want to get any projects done, make sure you guys reach out to him. I highly recommend Orion's artwork. But yeah, man, I can't wait to have you back on, dude. And yeah, we definitely shoot some more different conversations besides like just what you do now that you've been on here before. I hope I can get you on a review episode one day. I'll try to get you on the Doctor Strange one. I know that's a big one that's going to be coming up next.
I'm down for that, man. Yeah, no, I'm always happy to talk about anything. And then yeah, and again, sorry about like before, but yeah.
Oh, it's cool, dude. Don't sweat it. But yeah, but this is episode 116, you guys. Thank you guys so much and have a great day. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give a review and rate Spoiler Force Podcast. If you want to get all Spoiler Force updates or even peeks at behind the scenes, you can join the Spoiler Force Discord community. And if you'd like to show support, give tips, recommendations, sponsorships, or any collaborations, you can email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com.